here I am. I guess the town forest is still belongs to the select board, but our foresters are no longer with us. We're replacing them. And so I've been up in the forest a couple of times towards the end of the cut. So I'd just spend a couple of minutes giving you the executive summary of how it went. And I might mention that courtesy of Leon's father that I didn't have to walk all the way through the town forest. He drove me around. Basically, Greg Gainsworth, our forester, sent a report, and there will be work done next year because conditions were such that they didn't get up to the far northeastern end because of wet conditions. So we started a little late, February 22nd, moved the equipment in, and they were all done trucking by March 19th and out of there by the end of the month. They took 94 loads of forest products, including 39 loads of chips, 34 loads of hardwood, pulpwood, and firewood, 21 loads of saw logs and boltwood. Stumpage payment has been made on 24 loads of chips, 23 loads of pulpwood, and 5 loads of saw logs, for a total value of $7,067. Some of the scales are outstanding, so the estimate total stumpage value for the winter will be $23,000 to $25,000. And the forester gets 6.5% commission on that, so I think his cost will be around $2,700. So they closed and diverted the snow machine trail for part of the time for safety reasons, and that worked out pretty well. And Greg offers the following observations. Says the balsam fir component proved to be of less than average quality, a lot of butt rot, a lot of dead volume that was chipped. The white pine was better than expected. Paper birch volume overran projections. Fuel chips included significant volume of dead wood and small stems that would have been otherwise unmerchantable. So people have commented that the last cut, a lot of tops and branches were left in the woods, but this time I think they tried to chip them up and get some money for everybody for them. Also mentioned that the white-tailed deer are thriving. They use the forest very well, and common sight along Causeway Street, as well as throughout the harvest area. And if anyone is interested in the details, we have the stumpage and scale sheets. They've all been submitted to the town and are being reviewed. Thought I would take a minute to just update everybody on the legal status of the town forest. And I guess the best way to summarize that is it bears some looking into. At the time that we made our decision for the harvest, we all believed that it was not an official town forest because we went down to 75 and found no warrant articles. But Sam Stoddard, our man up there at the state, gave a little talk one day, and he pointed out that in 1960, Article 6, on motion of Donald Crane, it was voted to establish a town forest composed of the Hartford lot, the Davy lot, and the Paul lot, so-called, in accordance with Chapter 31 of the revised statutes. And the forest is to be known as the Lancaster Town Forest, and the forest is to be managed under the direction of the state forester or his authorized agents in accordance with good forestry practices. After deducting necessary expenses, the net proceeds from the sale of wood and timber from the said forest shall be paid into the town treasury. So that's the status, the legal status, as of the last time it was voted on. The law changed in 1975, providing for town forest commissions and what you were supposed to do with the proceeds of the forest. And so All I can suggest is that the town attorney take a look at it and see whether 1960 stands or whether we have to update anything. But I think, for those of you who haven't been around for the discussions with the select board, we went round and round and figured it out. And the question is, who manages the actual cuts? So I think in '75, we were fortunate to have Dick Belmore, local resident, was the chairman of the commission. He was a forester with the state. So that was probably the natural extension of the state forester. Since then, the bills have gone back and forth. Usually the work is done gladly by the commission on behalf of the select board. And then decisions have been released most recently by the select board. So there is some new legislation about that, something to look into. And I would like to recommend that we look into the, what I'll call the asset file of the town forest. For all of our conservation easements, you know, we have this file. It shows a survey map and the contracts that are involved and the legal descriptions of the properties. And there may be something like that here at the town, but we weren't able to locate it in any one place. So that might be a good general recommendation. For instance, there's 7 or 8 different farms listed as part of the town forest. Blanchard, Paul, Davy, Hartford, that goes up and down the line. So I would recommend that maybe in general, the town look into the status of their asset files, see if you got all your surveys and everything in line. Ran into the same thing with when we looked into the community camp. And it's lot number 1, range 30. But there's only 29 ranges in Lancaster, so go figure. So that's my basic report. They plan to continue in the northeast corner as frozen roads allow next year. I hope they start a little earlier so they can get done. But also, the damage to Causeway Road doesn't seem to be very severe. There's one culvert that got pounded a little bit, but I don't know, maybe you have a comment on that, but.
Well, I mean, it's obvious that it's been used, where it usually hasn't, but it's class 6 road that doesn't get a whole lot of maintenance, so.
Yeah, it's class 6, and that's right. But I frankly thought it would be pounded up worse than it was, but it didn't look too bad.
No, they did a pretty good job getting out of there before it got too soft.
Okay. So, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm sure the Conservation Commission will continue doing what we can to assist the select board, and we'll go forth from here.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, old business, review and approve the minutes from the March 15th meeting. You guys all had them in your packets.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve. I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it.
Second thing is approval of the mutual aid agreement, North Country Fire Mutual Aid District. Same mutual aid agreement we've been in for years with the surrounding communities to provide mutual aid when it's possible for us, and obviously to accept it when needed. Nothing has changed as far as the conditions. It doesn't tie us to sending any apparatus or people to a community if we're otherwise dealing with an issue in town, but it just it creates a cohesive structure. So the chairman signs on the side, so you can sign on the left-hand side on the bottom. So there needs to be a motion.
Good motion.
Make a motion. I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
We have a 2020 fire permit reimbursement. Listing the fire wardens in town that issued permits, fire permits for individuals, and a reimbursement of $1 per permit. Total expense between 6 fire wardens is $69. And they sign this, right, Sherry?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I see it. We have an intent to excavate for Alan Bethilier, proposing excavation of 100,000 cubic yards of material on his property on Route 3. We have an intent to cut for Sean McKillop on property on Gore Road. Acreage of lot is 5 acres, acreage to be cut is 3. It's gonna be cut by Shane Morton. Gravel tax levy for AB aggregates, Alan Bethilier, for the prior year, for the prior period, April 1st of 2020 to March 31st of this year. Total excavation is just shy of 92,000 cubic yards of material, 91,667.68. We have a timber tax levy for William and Sheila McCartan on Martin Meadow Pond Road. Their total tax is $1,129.67, based on assessed value of timber cut of $11,296.48. There's 2 places for you guys to sign. Let you catch up. Next thing is, you guys need to appoint a select board member to serve on the district committee to study Carol's withdrawal or planned withdrawal from the district. This was an email from Mary and Anastasia, just saying that pursuant to the statute 195-25, they must hold a meeting and form a committee comprised of selectmen from each town, school board representatives from each town, and any other persons the committee selects. And the timeline for the first meeting is within 60 days of the vote, so early May. And she's asking for the select board to identify selectmen that will represent the town in this study.
She wanna do it? I mean, you know more about it.
I've already kind of done some background work on it. I met with Marion 2 weeks ago.
I'm not really supposed to. I'll make a motion that we appoint Troy Myrna to that commission.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Last chance. The ayes have it.
Alright. Okay, we have an abatement for Tom Williams for a camper that was at Rogers Campground, but apparently it had been moved out of the campground at the beginning of the 2018 season, and it wasn't removed from our system until 2019 when the property owner finally contacted the town and provided evidence of that. The abatement amount was for $285.94. for the year of 2018. There was a lien placed. So you guys have to approve that.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second to abate the taxes.
Just read it.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. That tax is a disaster.
Yes.
What is what?
On campers.
Oh, yeah.
For what little you collect, as many abatements as we do, because people don't put their plates on or for whatever reason, it's a disaster.
All right, next abatement is, and you'll have to recuse yourself from this, Leon, for Leo and Leon Rideout, concerning 31 Causeway Street, the garage. After an inspection, site visit by Ed and Jason in November, Jason is recommending, where is it? The building be revalued. The original assessment was $25,300. He's recommending it be revised down to $16,100 for a difference of $9,200. And there,
And to make it official, I will recuse myself from any discussion or vote on that, so Shane, you'll have to.
They're abating on 200, yeah.
so the abatement amount for the prior tax year, 2020, is $227.61.
I make a motion to abate.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, now we've got a whole bunch of land use change taxes. So if I go too fast, let me know, I'll slow down. All right, so first one is, the first few of these are off of Mary Elizabeth Lane and Sunnyview Drive. Basically because they, what's that? Oh, I thought somebody said, Sunnyview Drive and Mary Elizabeth Lane. It's off of Prospect, used to be on my house, right? Mainly because there's been a lot of sales up there, so when it's taken out, it's, they need to pay a land use change tax because it no longer qualifies for current use. So this one is a 4.1 acre parcel on Sunnyview Drive that was recently purchased and therefore by a separate individual and no longer qualifies for current use. The land use change tax on this amount, the recommended value for the land use change tax is $24,000, so the tax, 10% tax is $2,400. And if I'm explaining any of this wrong, Jerry, please.
So far, so good.
All right, thank you. You don't have to lie. So $2,400 is the 10% of the value, so that's the tax. You have to approve
So
those.
that's what the part that goes to the conservation fund, the 10%?
Yes, up to the 2,000.
Okay, right.
Do they have to vote on these two, Jerry, to approve them, or they just sign them?
I don't think so, I think they just sign them.
Okay.
That's what they've done in the past.
All right, so this one is,
Huh?
I think it's pro forma, we don't have to vote.
Right.
I mean,
so this one is tax map R10, lot 70.
Mm-hmm.
it's controlled more by statute than it is.
By local ordinance and stuff. Okay. Next piece is a 2.4 acre parcel on Mary Elizabeth Lane. That the recommended value is $27,600, so their 10% is $22,760. And that's tax map R10, lot 68.
That was 27,260, is that
2760.
2760?
Yep.
So that gets us in there too.
Next piece again is a 2.4 acre parcel on Mary Elizabeth Lane. tax map R10, lot 69. Working with it, so the land use change tax is $30,000 for a 10% value of $3,000, and that's, if I didn't say it already, R10, lot 69. And that's a piece that is still owned by Emmanuel Marceau, but because some of the other sales doesn't have any more contiguous land around it to make the 10, it has to come out. It's 2.4 acres. And it's listed for sale at $35,000. You get that one, Rob, right? I said 30,000 for 3,000 tax. 10%.
So Meadows is 2,000 is 10%, because there's a ceiling of
3,000, it was a 30,000 land use change tax value, and the 10% would be 3. Yeah,
So the 10% that goes to the conservation fund would be 3, except there's a ceiling of 2.
Yeah, but is it a ceiling of 2 on each land use change tax, or is it a $2,000 limit annually?
That's annually, I believe.
That's kind of how I read it too, but I wasn't really sure. Because I didn't
Well-
understand it the same way, I guess.
all right,
I'm just curious myself, because
Yeah,
I read it that
I
way.
think I read it that it was 10% of the land use change tax up to $2,000 would go to the conservation fund. Naturally,
For that,
as an interest in the conservation fund, I thought it would be per parcel. But you know, the way to find out would be to go back and look in the past and see if there's ever been more than
Yeah.
$2,000 assigned to the fund.
all right, move on. We're now off Mary Elizabeth and Sunnyview Drive, we're on McGarry Hill Road, 2.2 acre parcel. Land use change tax of 30,000 to 10% would be 3,000, and that's R12, lot 54.
Until land sales have been taken off.
Yeah. This is a land use change tax on property off of Lost Nation Road, R6, lot 49, and the reason is because it came out of change of ownership from one entity to another, so it is no longer contiguous with consistent owners. It's 14,000, which brings you a 10% value of $1,400. Same thing off of Lost Nation Road, a change in ownership, so it makes non-contiguous parcels equaling over 10 acres. Lot R6, map R6, lot 001, 11.5, land use change tax, 10% would be 1,150. We get down to arms. These next two are changes based on further development on the property outside of what it was originally, the current use was based on. R6 off of Pleasant Valley Road, map R6, lot 003. An extra 3/4 of an acre was added to the developed area of the parcel. So the land use change tax is 5,000 for 10% would bring $500. The last one is the same thing. Further development on the property for an extra roughly ½ acre. 4,000 value, the 10% would be $400.
ask a question about that? So, when you say that the change in value is 4,000, that means since it was in current use and it's coming out, it goes up 4,000?
The value the way I understand it, the value of the land that's coming out is the 4,000,
Right.
is 4,000.
So the 10%
Is 400.
would be $400.
Right.
And that would be the tax they would owe.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think
So,
that, yeah.
so I think what the conservation fund gets is 10% of what they owe. So if they owe $400, we get 40.
Right, okay.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I was.
Yeah, no, and I was
understanding.
probably explaining it wrong, so you're probably right, it's probably, the value is the higher number, and the tax is the 10% of that, and then you get 10% of that 10%, is that what you're saying, Rob? Okay,
Yeah,
sounds good.
thank you for clarifying.
I'll look it up, so I know more in the detail.
Don't misunderstand, we'd rather have 400 than 40, but.
Oh, no, you're the one that clarified it for less, Rob, so
All right.
we'll take your
No.
word.
Too much is more, just as illegal as too little.
All right, I guess for other business, because the rest is just information, I don't know if, Rob, if this is where you wanna bring up, I will, the
Sure.
select board,
Sure.
Alan Carr has resigned from the Conservation Commission, I shared that, did you get the letter from your box, Rob?
Yes, I did.
So I shared that letter with Rob, today, I just got the letter from Alan Carr today, so it's a very simple thing. And I received another letter today, Rob,
I did.
you got it too? I'm sorry, Chief.
Oh, good, thank you. You got the G, okay, good.
So I don't know if you had intended to address the select board about new appointees, or what
Well-
we're doing.
Let me recite what I think is our understanding from the meeting on the 15th, which was that we had agreed that we would review the candidates and make your recommendations. But since our meeting is next week, we were scheduled to do that review and report to you our nominations on your meeting of what's your next meeting, the 15th or the 20th or whatever it
It's
is?
the third Monday.
Right, so it's
Right.
the fifth, so it'll be
So that was my understanding of how we left it, and so there's been one more resignation since then. At the March 15th meeting, we were to report to you on the third Monday of the two candidates that we recommended to fill the two vacant spots. Who was on the commission at that moment was Eric Livingston, Margaret Hobbs, myself, Alan Carr, and Troy Murner as the select board representative. Since then, Alan Carr has tendered his resignation. And so we now have 3 members plus a select board representative, and Ben is very careful about figuring out, see, some of them resigned, some of them didn't re-up at the end of their 3 years. Some of them have left tail stubs of terms. So, as I understand it, when we come back to you 2 weeks from today, we will recommend 3 names. Because we had 2, and then Alan Carr has decided.
We'll need 3, so we'll expect that at the next meeting.
Yes, that was my understanding, and I will say that we have 4 resumes in hand from, from when we did our prior solicitation, and, let's see, at least 3 of them are here tonight, showing their interest in the general affairs of the town, and they'll probably come and have hard questions for us at our meeting Monday night to try to figure out what we all do. So, we have applications in hand, and we will report in 2 weeks.
Sounds good, and can we do a letter or a card to Alan, thank him for his service, please?
Yep, I'll take care of that.
Rob, can I talk to you about the commission?
About which?
I'd like to talk to you about the commission.
Yes, go ahead.
Since I've been on this board, it's just been over a year,
Yeah,
we've had quite a turnaround on the members of that board.
can I ask you to help me to keep the people that we are going to appoint for a longer period of time? Can you-
Yes,
Can you
I'm
help
very
me?
committed to that,
Can you help me with that? And I mean that sincerely.
and I sincerely reply.
Because if it doesn't work out, then we've gotta look at why this is happening.
Okay, and I'd like to say a few things about that. One is that Alan Ryder and I joined the commission in 2019, 2 years ago. At that time, the commission really hadn't met or kept minutes for 7 or 8 years. And so we had to dig in, first of all, figure out what they even did. And the people, the incumbents who were there, had not been performing for a long time. Some of them rose to the occasion and started performing. Some of them decided they didn't want to stay now that there was work. I was probably a little bit, well, like the master sergeant, you know, we gotta do this. The rules say we gotta do it, we gotta do it. And maybe I'm not the smoothest guy about that, but I will say that we now record our monthly meetings, we meet monthly, we report to the state we monitor our easements that belong to the town, we've completed the natural resources inventory, and we have done a lot of things that have been neglected for a long time. And also, there's been some confusion, as we all know, about the status of the funds that belong to the commission. One of the things that's misunderstood, as I understand it, there's 3 flavors of committees in a town. There's a commission, there's a board, and there's a committee. Now, the definition of the commission is we happen to have independent financial resources, and our purview is beyond the boundaries of the town. We can, with your approval, of course, negotiate with other towns to protect land or to participate in other funds. Whereas I don't think our planning board or our zoning board has that sort of latitude or authority. And the third level is a committee, which is typically appointed for a specific task. I guess an example of that would be the master plan committee, would you say, Ben? You know, they've got a specific task. Zoning and planning has the regular review and enforcement of what the town's rules are. And the Conservation Commission it's a commission, and it goes beyond the town boundaries in that we have some responsibilities according to the statutes of the state that the other organizations don't. So, my goal, and it hasn't always been pleasant, and it's been a lot of work, was to get us back up and running. And really what started it was when I come on board, Ben and the Northern Forest Council were doing everything they could to bring in some grant money and expand our town forest. And so I took a look at it and thought, well, you know, if someone's gonna wanna see if we do our job and make a good showing, we're gonna have to come around. I think there were some people on the commission who found it very convenient to be members because it looked good, but they didn't have to do very much. And when they found out that there were a lot of activities that we had to, responsibilities we had to fulfill, I'm not saying they didn't want to do the work, but a lot of them found out that it conflicted with their other responsibilities. So, I know you've heard from various people that I'm hard to get along with, and the answer is yes, I was for 2 years. But my goal is to get the commission running normally, running according to Hoyle, and to go forth and do what a commission should do with the best interests of the town of Lancaster involved.
That's what we're looking for, is move forward from this point.
That's right. And I don't, it's not like, you know, I haven't had any fun doing it, believe me. And, but I felt like I had to dig in and do it, and it wasn't happening by itself, and sometimes it was unpopular. But now I feel like we've got ourselves back on track,
Okay.
and I'm just as happy that you should see the pool of applicants. You'll see them committed people, capable people who have an interest in two things: the people of Lancaster and getting some of the younger people of Lancaster involved eventually. So thank you for asking for that. Definitely one of my goals. And I will say, I'm the last one left. I'm the only one on the commission who's been there more than 1 month.
I know.
Chris, Chris,
And next item?
the people you have in mind, do they tend to the meeting now? Or they just,
Yes, for the last 2 years, we've been very fortunate. Of 24 meetings,
these,
we've only had 2 in which we didn't have at least a quorum, if not everybody there. And we've also, we now Zoom our meetings. So
The
if
people-
someone was quarantined for COVID or was out of town on business, they were able to participate in the meeting. Yes, so we have had,
very good.
yeah.
Cause I'm a strong conservative believer. If you're running for office, tend to meetings before you get there.
That's right. And 90% of it's showing up.
Yeah, watch it, man, I'm coming.
Next item?
All right, next item, just information for the last bit of
Thank
the
you, sir.
meeting.
Thank you, Chris.
So we got a letter from Dave Falkenham of New England Forestry Consultants, just introducing himself. Many of you would probably know him because he grew up in town. He's a licensed, New Hampshire licensed forester, and he just provided a list of the services he could provide if and when necessary. A few building permits and a couple sign permits. We have a building permit for applicant of David Dunn. The owner of the property is Page Hill Mobile Home Park Cooperative, for placement of a mobile home, new 14 by 68 foot mobile home on First Street, on slab. Mo Ingerson on Summer Street, she bought 26 Summer Street and they're renovating the inside, she's gonna move there. This McDonald's Corporation applicant was Bowler Engineering. This is a renewal of a previous permit. They're gonna be doing some interior and exterior renovations to basically modernize the facade and the insides of it. It's gonna have I think it's gonna have a more consistent look with like the one in Littleton. And you'll see a sign permit in a minute.
That's unfortunate.
Even uglier than what's there now.
Yeah, the one in Littleton is really ugly, man.
Now, you mentioned the sign permit, are they going for a bigger sign?
No,
No.
Is there anything the
Why do
planning
they need a
board can
sign
do?
permit?
because they're
Is
changing
the
it.
existing
Because they're changing it.
smaller?
Yeah, I answered, they weren't going bigger, so they must be going smaller.
Okay.
Is there anything the planning board can do about the look?
No. It's gonna be more compliant with what many people have, other than the typical McDonald's look that everybody complains about.
That's
So anyways, Murray and Rona Glines, applicant and owner, they are going to, on McGarry Hill Road, they're gonna place a single-family modular home on a foundation, with a deck and sunroom. Some renovations to, TJ's Truck Stop property on Bridge Street for, just some interior renovations for retail space. And then the sign permit, McDonald's is changing their building mounted sign from what's there now, which is, it's gonna be 14 square feet, what's there now is well over 35. It's just gonna be, I think it's just gonna be the arch on the building, once they get the facade done. And then the last one is Bailey sign for just some signage at Shaw's for the drive up and go thing they're doing. They've got some interior signs up, so they applied for a sign permit for that. And that's that.
So I have a question about this issue, which is that when these companies were, when they came into town and they went through site plan reviews,
McDonald's didn't. I don't believe.
Didn't
McDonald's
what?
did. I don't believe McDonald's went through site plan review. I'm not sure we had it back then.
okay, well, this is a generic question, but if a company or somebody went through a site plan review and then they make substantial changes, how does that,
If they had previous approvals, then yes, there would have to be some review by the planning board. Maybe not necessarily, or if the look was consistent with what was already there, with what was approved, then that wouldn't be considered substantial. But if it was a substantial facade change, then yes, it should go through site plan review for a revised or amended.
and if there was no site plan review, in the case of McDonald's, you believe there was no such thing, then what? They don't have to answer,
Clarify, McDonald's.
they don't have to,
original sign and building. When they came to town, they said to the selectmen, we're gonna put a smaller than average sign up. And there was no sign ordinance at that time. And they got the ire of the citizens so up in the air about that, because they popped up the standard sign, that we adopted a sign ordinance with a size, but they were already here, we couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
That's what got your sign ordinance into town in the beginning, was McDonald's lying to the selectmen.
Yeah, I understand.
so back to my question. When they renovate, the town has no say about what they do?
Well, I reviewed it and I approved it, so the town does.
So it's all up to you?
That one it is, yeah, it was just a building permit, yeah.
So they're not changing footprint, they're
changing
not
footprint.
doing anything so it complies with our ordinances.
Well,
If it was out of compliance with our ordinances, then it would be planning board or zoning
Well-
board review.
take the one in Gorham. They took out all the shrubbery and put in crushed rock. Is there nothing in our ordinances that asks them or suggests or advises that they have shrubs and trees or landscaping other than crushed rock?
Well, are you talking about if this McDonald's did that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there would be some, there is some measures for, yeah, they couldn't basically go backwards in what they're doing. If what they have now is maybe not necessarily compliant with what our regulations and ordinances say, and they're going further beyond it, going backwards, then yeah, there's something to say. If they're going more forwards, doing better, but maybe not completely up to the code of regulation, then it would be okay. Do you understand that?
Basically, the grandfather clause.
well, I
So
guess
you can't be any less compliant than you already are, but you can get more compliant.
So, in the case of Gorham, for instance, say they decide to do what Gorham did and take out all the shrubbery that's around the building and put in crushed rock. Is that allowed here? Do our ordinances?
I would probably put, I would probably try to address it. That's a good question as to, I would say probably they couldn't do it. I would argue that if they wanted to change that, then they would have to go through site plan to change, to go further backwards than what they're doing. It's hard to say where they were not, they're already there before site plan, and there isn't any approval, there wasn't any approval through the planning board, so it's hard to use the authority of the planning board, but I probably could use the authority of the planning board and say, listen, you're going against the regulations that are currently there, even more so than maybe what you are now.
I mean, they have established a precedent with what's there.
Right.
So if they remove landscaping, they're, to my way of thinking, going backwards.
Right, and they're not proposing to remove landscape.
Now, I don't know if they are or not, but it's just a,
It's like for the sign that they got the permit for. Once they put that sign up, if next year they wanted to put the old sign up, they couldn't because they're becoming more compliant. They then can't say, well, I wanna increase it back to what we were before, because then that would be more non-compliant.
oh, I get that, I get that, but just because there's no site plan review when they were established, doesn't seem to me they don't fall under any, requirements now.
Well, I reviewed it and I didn't think it had to go to site plan.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, anything from the board? Anything else? What, we got?
I want to talk to the manager.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, me.
Mr. Chairman, I'm John Garrison,
Oh.
citizen of Lancaster. Whereas a group of citizens paid Flume Media to broadcast the town meetings as an experiment to see if it would be viewed by the public. And whereas the selectmen did not object to the experiment during their meetings on their meeting on February 16th. And whereas the town meeting was broadcast on March 13th, therefore, I move that Flume Media and/or those who commissioned them to broadcast the meeting, present a report of the results of the experiment to this body, which includes but need not be limited to who watched the broadcast, how many of them were logged into Granite North Television, Facebook, and YouTube at 10, 10:30, 11, and 11:30 a.m., and how many were residents of Lancaster.
Thank you.
That would all be very interesting information.
And there will be a report, we used them last summer for the raffle.
You basically
We
use
got a
it in
detailed
the
report
viewing
after the
statistics.
event,
I
how many
think
people
the,
were on it.
I'll ask about that.
Can you communicate with them and see if they're?
Yeah, I saw Chad Fillion today and I planned on trying to meet with him, next week and I'll talk to him about getting that information
So,
for the next meeting.
all right. So we'll try to put that on the agenda for the next meeting, as long as they can provide the reports by then.
Chad's-
And anything else? Reverend?
Yes, sir.
Who is going to take your position that you left?
I don't know, I'm gonna, so what I discussed with the selectmen is for a little bit, I'm gonna try to determine basically what duties I take down to the town manager's office and what stay in the planning office. And that way I'll have a better understanding of the skill set that we need to hire for that position. Cause there are some things that I previously did that would normally probably be in the town manager's office, so. You might not need somebody that's an emergency management director and grant administrator and all that stuff. You could maybe just do.
Is
slide
that
down some.
a position that the executive board says yes or no to the person?
We will be refining the job description and hiring to meet that new job description. Obviously, there's some skills that Ben has that he's gonna take to the front office that we might not need in that office. So we wanna take time, look at the position, and refine the job description, so we appropriately hire someone for that position.
But it's basically, it's a department head position, which would be my responsibility to hire, much like the highway foreman or the water sewer superintendent. Obviously with discussion with the select board as well.
It's gonna be a tough shoe to fill.
I don't know about that, Rev.
Well, I do.
Appreciate it.
We're not gonna rush into hiring.
Can Lucy
just
shine
to fill the position.
the camera on you when you say that?
My
Thank you,
next
Rev.
question is,
Appreciate that.
while we're here, I am planning to put on a steel roof on my house.
Yep.
Do I have to have a permit for that?
No.
Yeah, yeah.
You're good.
If I'm gonna put up a window, I have to have a permit. But doing this, you don't.
Windows
A lot
and
of
door
things I
replacements.
can't
Yeah, roofs are
understand.
fine.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rev.
One more?
Yep, Rob Christie here. This is, kind of leads off of Rev's question there. I remember when Shane first came on, there was something that came up and he said, well, what's the town policy on that? And there was some confusion about finding out where the policy book was or anything like that. And so I wondered if this wouldn't be a time to discover what the policies are and see if any of them needed refining or reviewing.
Well, we've gotta let Ben get his feet a little wetter, but that is will be one of the things that we look at town policies as far as employees and?
Yeah.
I have several priorities, Ralph, that I plan to go after, that being one of them.
I think it's a huge job, but in the long run, it will make all of your tasks a lot easier.
Because it's been a long time since they've been revised, so there's definitely
Right,
time to look at them and see what needs to be revised and
right.
so forth.
And as part of that, I would suggest that we maybe put some financial numbers on it, because it may be that there's, you know, from file cabinets to, you know, going through and copying and revising things, sometimes even having somebody who dedicates their time to seeing how it works in other towns, or, you know, what we can learn from somewhere else. We don't wanna copy everyone else, but that's what we did on the Conservation Commission. We didn't have policies, so we looked at all the other towns, and we looked at planning and zoning, and came up with something. But it does take some time and some effort, and so maybe that's something to consider in the budget next year. If, spend some money if it costs something.
Did you say that there are people who audit systems and figure out what's working and what's not working?
Well,
and
they're management consultants for
towns?
businesses or whatever, and I'm sure there are some for municipals. The New Hampshire Municipal Association probably can provide a lot of help that wouldn't cost too much, but I'm just saying, there's gonna be some work involved,
Yes, there is.
and I think it'll save us money in the long run.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
make a motion to adjourn?
I've got a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I've got a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Yeah, head up the stairs, Rev, and I'll catch you when we can. And I'll catch you.